Good morning, Facebook. How y'all doing today? I'm doing good. So a couple of days ago, I got on a quick live because I had got upset about reading about a missing person that was found dead. Her name was Gretchen Harrington. I talked about her. And I was kind of upset because I was kind of talking about her story and then the fake story with Carlithia Russell, what happened to her and how that was not a real story. So anyway, I wanted to just talk a little bit about Gretchen Harrington, so I'm not going to be long. Gretchen Harrington, she was an 8-year-old and she was on her way to Bible class, and the pastor from the church, she was walking along the side of the road and he stopped and he picked her up. At some point, he veered off and took her into the woods, and he asked her to take off her clothes and she didn't want to, and at that point is when he killed her. So approximately from what I read, about 2 months later, her body was found by a jogger. And it took all of these years since 1975 to link the pastor to her murder. And unfortunately, sometimes justice is delayed. If you even feel that that's justice, really it's closure to me, because at least the family knows who killed her. But I just want to read the article, and I've linked it into my page so you can read it later. It's worth checking into, because it's just a super sad story of what happened to her. And I think it's just a warning that you cannot trust people. And if you have a smaller, younger child at the age of 8, they should not be walking alone. They should not be going anywhere alone. They should always have the presence of an adult or even an older sibling that would be more aware and more protective to try to keep them safe. So the article I'm going to read is going to be from a newsworthy company. This is going to be from CNN. I don't know if that's the one I linked, but it's been reported all over just because of the heinousness of the crime. Just being a sad situation. So let's get to it. An 83-year-old former pastor has been charged with the kidnapping and murder of a neighboring pastor's daughter in 1975. Pennsylvania officials announced Monday. The suspect, David Zandstra, was arrested on July 17th in Cobb County, Georgia, where investigators say he confessed to killing 8-year-old Gretchen Harrington nearly 5 decades ago when he was a pastor in Marple Township, Pennsylvania, according to the Delaware County District Attorney's Office in Pennsylvania. His confession came after investigators presented him with new evidence gathered early this year, which came from an interview with a confidential informant and a diary entry the informant wrote in 1975 when she was a 10-year-old girl. The district's attorney office said in a news release. Zandstra, has been charged with criminal homicide, murder, kidnapping of a minor, and the possession of an instrument of crime, the release said. Justice has been a long time coming, but we are proud and grateful to finally be able to give the community an answer. That was the Delaware County District Attorney Jack Stolzheimer said in a statement. This case has haunted members of law enforcement and the small area of Marple Township since Gretchen went missing, Stolzheimer said. The girl was last seen walking to summer Bible camp on August 15th, 1975, the release said. So sad. Just so, I can't even imagine if I was her mother. Just makes me want to cry right now, just reading it. The camp was held at both the Trinity Church Chapel Christian Reformed Church, where Zanstra was a pastor, and the Reformed Presbyterian Church, where Gretchen's father was a pastor, the release said. Gretchen's father became concerned when she failed to appear at his church, the release says. And it was Zanstra who then called police to report Gretchen's disappearance. See what I mean? He literally kidnapped her and killed her. And he's the person to call police. A lot of times people, it's somebody we know, it's somebody close to us. He calls the police to report Gretchen's disappearance. If that's not diabolical, hey, let's keep going. I don't want to get too upset about this. This is early in the morning. My day is just starting, so I'm sorry. Investigators noted there were inaccuracies in Zanstra's early statements, and they had questions about how the pastor knew so much about what Gretchen was wearing that day. Now, this is where you need good detectives. You need a listening ear. People tell on themselves a lot. You just have to listen. And if you can, get you some video. Get you a recording device. Let's start that whole sentence over. Investigators noted there were inaccuracies in Zanstra's early statements, and they had questions about how the pastor knew so much about what happened to Gretchen. About what Gretchen was wearing that day, even though she never arrived at camp, according to a newly released criminal complaint. How do you know what she's wearing when she never arrived there? That's a red flag. We gotta be open to these red flags. And maybe the family couldn't see it. They're just so overwhelmed. But the police, that's a red flag for police. How do you know what a person is wearing if they never arrived there? Why are you even filing a police report? At the time, Zanstra denied knowing about the disappearance, the complaint said. 2 months later, Gretchen's skeletal remains were found in nearby Ridley Creek State Park. Her cause of death was homicide, and the medical examiner said Gretchen suffered 2 or more blunt impacts to the skull, according to court documents. Nearly 5 decades went by as the case lay dormant. Ultimately, an interview with a woman who was friends with the suspect's daughter in the 1970s and her diary entries from that time led to a pivotal break in the case. Let's read that. That's important. It wasn't until this January that Pennsylvania State Police learned new evidence from the confidential informant who had been best friends with one of Zanstra's daughters in the 1970s and attended sleepovers at his house, the district attorney's office said. The woman showed police a diary she kept in 1975, and when she wrote that the then pastor touched her groin area. On 2 occasions while she was attending a sleepover at his home, the complaint said. The informant told investigators when she told Zanstra's daughter what happened, the daughter replied that her father did that sometimes, the release said. So that means that he was molesting his daughter and then using his daughter through her friends when they would come over. He would molest the friends too. And it's so sad. Why didn't the friend go and tell her parents? Like, it's hard enough to let your kids go overnight somewhere else outside of your protection at home. But you got to also talk, if you allow them, know the other parents well. And it's hard because he was a pastor. People trust pastors. But you shouldn't trust anybody, honestly. Let it be earned. And be aware. Go over there, see how they live. Before you just pull up and let your kids out the car, just make sure, verify, confirm. Or have the sleepovers at your house where you have the control and the power. Like, I'm cool with parents. I've did hotels where the parents could get their own room. And we could just meet and have fun and go to the zoo and go to dinner, go to swimming. And you have your own room. You don't have to worry. But most of my daughter's sleepovers, she had one best friend since pre-K. Pre-K, baby. Pre-K. And I've been over their house. They're really good friends with me. And her best friend has been over here, you know. And I don't let a lot of people, and I don't let my daughter go over and spend at other people's house. Just you have to be safe. Let me get back to this. Okay. The informant's diary also contained an entry about a separate incident, which she said was an attempted kidnapping. Guess what? A man tried to kidnap Holly twice. It's a secret, so I can't tell anyone, but I think he might be the one who kidnapped Gretchen. Read the diary entry from September 1975. According to the criminal complaint, I think it was Mr. Z. Investigators learned the former pastor now lives in Marietta, Georgia, and confronted him there with the new evidence last month, according to the release. Zanstra admitted he offered Gretchen a ride to the summer camp the morning of her disappearance. According to the complaint, he told officers he drove the child to a wooded area and told her to take off her clothes. Remember, she was 8 years old. The complaint said, when she refused, he said he punched her in the head and left her bleeding in the area, believing her to be dead, according to the complaint. A DNA sample was collected from Zanstra by police so it can be compared to DNA collected from the scene, as well as open cases in the state and country. The district attorney's office said, the abduction and murder of Gretchen has forever altered our family, and we miss her every single day, the Harrington family said in a statement provided by law enforcement. We are grateful for the continual pursuit of justice by law enforcement, and we want to thank the Pennsylvania State Police for never stopping in their constant search for answers. Zanstra left Pennsylvania after Gretchen's disappearance and lived in Plano, Texas, and Marietta, Georgia. Prosecutors said, Pennsylvania State Police are now asking people in those communities who may have relevant information about Zanstra to contact them. CNN reached out to Zanstra's listed attorney on court documents but did not hear back. So you guys, I just want to share that story. I'll show you some pictures of her. I don't know how to make them larger. Okay, that's a little bit larger. That's her missing flyer here. I posted it. That's a school age picture of her. She's a pretty little girl. That's Gretchen, you guys. So if you guys, I don't know if you could leave hearts, but if you could leave a heart or write hearts, that's why I put the hearts on the frame, because I want us to just delicately remember her. That was Gretchen Harrington. Almost 48 years. just to get justice. Just for her family to get some closure and know the truth of what happened to her. She didn't get a chance to come back home.